Right, back live with you tonight on In Focus, and thanks for staying on. Today is observed as International Day of Education, and with this in mind, the Office of the UK High Commissioner to South Africa introduced the Shivering Programme for students with ambitions of studying abroad. Qualifying students will be awarded the opportunity to study in Britain for a year on a fully funded master's degree course. For more on this, we're now joined by the UK High Commissioner to South Africa, Antony Phillipson. Good to have you, sir, and thank you very much for your time tonight here on In Focus. Let's begin by maybe setting the scene. I mean, in the context of AI, ChatGPT is the latest thing that people are talking about, and tech jobs and so on and so forth. What do you see increasingly is the role of education in the global context?
Well, thank you very much indeed for having me on, not least since I had a bit of a false start with one of your colleagues earlier in the day. But I think it's been absolutely brilliant that Newzroom Afrika has been talking to some of our achieving scholars through the day. As you say, it is International Day of Education. It is marking the role that education plays in peace and development. And for us here in South Africa, as the UK and South Africa Network, the role of education driving economic growth, the path from education to employment, is a really critical part of what we are looking to do in partnership with the South African government. It was a big theme for President Ramaphosa's state visit to the United Kingdom in November last year. And it's just, I think it's fundamental. There's no way forward without a comprehensive education system. That's the same in my country. I think it's the same in South Africa. It's the same all around the world. And that's why we are celebrating the International Day of Education.
What is at the core, really, of global learning? What is that about? And for example, the Shivering Program, of course, allow South African learners to be able to get this particular experience.
Well, if I may, I'd half a step back. So we do a lot of work, for example, through the British Council here in South Africa on basic education. We talk about literacy. We talk about English language teaching. We also, to your point about AI and ChatGPT, we talk about coding in schools. We also talk about university collaborations. We want to deepen the collaborations between our universities and South African universities. We want to focus on technological and vocational training in the sectors that are going to drive the future of both of our economies. We do a lot of work through the TVET colleges in areas like electric vehicles, for example. And then the Achieving Scholarship Programme, which has been running since 1983. Since then, so we're marking its 40th anniversary this year, since then 50,000 of the world's brightest students from about 160 countries have travelled to the UK and done a fully funded master's programme at a full range of UK universities. In that time, 800 of them have come from South Africa. There are 35 studying there as we speak. And I just think it's a fundamental part of the relationship that we want to build between the UK and South Africa for the future. People-to-people links, but also especially future leaders of South Africa coming to a UK university, studying there, and then, as South African ministers always tell me, coming home and giving back to South Africa and becoming future leaders here. I think it's just such a fundamental and integral part of the relationship that we want to build for the future.
Yeah. Tell us about the mechanics of it. How does it work? What's the criteria for candidates? How are they selected into the program? And really, what kind of individuals are you looking for?
Well, we don't really limit it to what people can study. There's a full range of what people are studying at UK universities, everything from business innovation through to creative media, through to media freedom studies, the classic arts, sciences, etc. And as I said, a full range of universities across the United Kingdom. It's a pretty rigorous process. We're literally now in the process of interviewing thousands of South African applicants to produce next year's cohort. Next week in Cape Town, I'll have the privilege of having an event there to welcome back this year's or last year's cohort, because we always do a big send-off event here in Pretoria, in Cape Town, and in Durban as well. They're the three big centres for us. And then we also look to welcome them back. We look for people who have passion, they have high-quality skills themselves, they have a vision for their future and what they're going to contribute. And then we want them to come and spend time at our universities, experience the United Kingdom, and then, as I say, come home and become future leaders for South Africa. There's a lot of information available on our social media platforms about how to apply for these. As you said earlier, they are fully funded scholarship programs for 1 year, master's programs in the UK. It's a wonderful opportunity, and I really hope that anyone listening to this who's interested in it looks at our social media, get in touch with me. I'd be delighted to talk to people individually and just tell people all about it.
Yeah. And what opportunities become then available mostly for South African scholars as they embark on this global experience and they are exposed, as you say, to that full catalogue of universities in the United Kingdom?
Well, I don't think there's any limit. I think, these are incredibly bright students who've come through the South African system, and then they experience the UK through the master's program. And then, if you look back over the cohorts over the past 40 years, we have Chevening alumni. They are in senior positions in business. They're in senior positions in the civil service. They're in senior positions in the government. They are in civil society, academia, in the media. It's really about opening the lens and giving people a platform from which to realize their own ambitions and then come back to South Africa and give back to the country. It's not for us to say what they are going to go and do with it. We do look to tweak some of the focuses of the programs in terms of the issues that are of real significance to the UK and South Africa, whether it's climate change, whether it's economic growth, whether it's health and human development, skills and education. Wonderful, I think, to see scholars going back into the education system and giving back and encouraging others to follow their path. But we're not looking to limit. We're looking to encourage and facilitate and give people a platform to realize their ambitions.
Yeah. A bit of a philosophical conversation, I suppose, when we take a little bit step back, especially considering what you've just said in terms of commonality, in terms of challenges that both countries would be facing, but also in considering the globalization processes. Do you think there is a need to revisit certainly the role of education in this country in particular?
Well, I think, as I said at the beginning, I think education is a fundamental building block for the future of any country. My country, South Africa, other posts that I've served in, Singapore and the US. Enormous focus, I think, on education. And that's why we put education I've talked a little bit about what the council does through basic education, through universities. We also run programs through our tech hub around entrepreneurship and women's economic empowerment. I think, that process of learning, giving people the skills that are going to allow them to flourish in the global economy of the future, and doing so in partnership, building partnerships between the UK and South Africa through not just the Chevening program, but our other activities here. I think that is what it is about in terms of building load-bearing relationships for the future. We live in a global society. We deal with global challenges, whether it's climate change that I mentioned, whether it's COVID that we've all dealt with over the past few years. The future global challenges as we look to deliver security and prosperity for the people of both of our countries. I really do think if you want to look for a golden thread that runs through that, education is probably where I would start.
Yeah. In the number of years that you have been running this program, and for a South African who's probably hearing this for the very first time, what can be said about this particular program and those who have come through it in terms of value generation?
So I think the unique thing about the Chevening program, and it's one of a number of scholarship programs that people can apply through in order to study in the UK. But I think, and again, I've seen this here in South Africa. I've also seen it in a previous posting when I was High Commissioner in Singapore. The fact that it is something that is rooted in the ambitions of the people of the country that I was in. This is not about the UK telling people what to come and study. This is saying, we're going to give you a very broad, open offer. If you are amongst the best and the brightest and you want to come and study at our universities, then we will give you the chance to come and spend a year in the UK. You will study at some of the finest universities in the world. I'm not saying we're the only ones with great universities. There are some great universities here in South Africa as well. We also hope that people will experience the UK. They will travel around. I think, I pay great credit to those who did the Chevening program during the COVID years when it wasn't possible to do that, but they still came and did it. There is also the opportunity to engage with the charitable sector, with the Prince's Trust, the Conservation Trust, with Oxfam. I think we want to give people the chance to experience the UK. And that's what I think is so powerful about this. And it's about, as I keep coming back to, building those future relationships. that will be the sustaining platform for the future partnership between the UK and South Africa.
We appreciate your time, sir. Thank you very much for coming on tonight. That's Antony Phillipson, the UK High Commissioner to South Africa.